My name is Steve Kerslake. I've had a transplant for the last 26 years.
Can you take us through the day when you got the call?
Funnily enough, Rick, I was out getting a transplant for my sister's car. The car needed a new motor, so I was out at a motor wreckers in Sydney trying to find a 250 cubic inch Falcon motor for this old ex-wife Falcon. And not being any mobile phones, and I'd gone out in our truck at the time to try and find one, and my partner had to go to several different wreckers to try and find me. And he eventually found me, and we drove back and got to the Royal North Shore Hospital in Sydney as quickly as possible. And I think it was within probably 8 hours that I was operated on.
How did you actually feel when you got the news?
Elated. Yes, very, very elated, and almost a high it was at the time. Because you've got no time to think about it, everything was going swimmingly. They took, it felt like litres of blood at the time to cross-match the actual transplant. And at the time I thought, oh no, this is great, no problems here. And then they tried to put a catheter into my heart, which didn't work out as well as what it should have. And that was when I realised, oh, this is, time's getting serious now.
What number were you on the list?
At that time, you don't really know, Rick, you don't know. I must have been pretty high, and I guess I must have been the closest match at that particular time.
What do you remember about the immediate pre-operative period?
The elation, I think, mainly, and it just moves so quickly you don't really think about it at all. It's just getting it prepped, getting bloods done, and then making sure that the kidney's right to go. So, not a great deal at the time, mainly elation. Actually being lucky enough to get there. When I woke up, the main thing that I realised that I was in enormous pain. That's not the same for every patient. It varies from person to person, I believe. With my experience, the man opposite me who had a transplant at a similar time, his transplant started working immediately. Because of the anti-rejection drugs that I was on, they slowed down the kidney kicking in. So it actually took, I had to have a couple more dialysis sessions before the actual kidney started to work. When it did start to work, it went like a train. It's been going like that for the last 26 years. The guy opposite me, unfortunately, lost his within 2 days. So it's just the luck of the draw, unfortunately.
That must have been very disappointing to have to have dialysis after having the operation.
Yeah, so you go from one area, Rick, where you're right up at elation when you first get in there, and then all of a sudden you're devastated because the kidney's not working. But the doctors did reassure me that this is normal with the anti-rejection drugs that I was taking. The main thing that any transplant recipient will remember is the amount of water you have to drink. Going from 500 mils a day to virtually litres and litres is a big ask, and when you're not used to it, you have a great deal of difficulty drinking that much. For the simple reason you've been on a fluid restriction for so long, you're not used to drinking a large quantity of water. So what happens is your bladder shrinks over that period of time, so your capacity isn't really large, so you're drinking litres and litres of water. And of course the consequences is that you're going to the toilet night and day. I was in the hospital, I think it was 6 weeks, and the main reason for that, whereas they get them out pretty quick now, the main reason I was in for 6 weeks was the new anti-rejection drug, cyclosporin, which they designated to me, which was a trial. And I believe it's still being I'm still on the trial because of how long it's been going. The cyclosporin was fairly unpleasant to take because you had to actually put it into either milk or cordial or something like that, and it tasted fairly foul. But it certainly has done a wonderful job. For me, it doesn't suit everybody. Every drug regime is different. But getting back on my feet, I was pretty much working 6 days a week, 6 half days a week. So it took me about 6 weeks after getting out of hospital to 2 months to get back to work. And once I did get back to work, I was back doing mechanical work, and I also had another job in a bar as a barman. So I saved some money, and because I hadn't had the opportunity, I went overseas for 6 weeks just to be able to say that I've gotten away from it without being stuck to that damn machine. I had, they thought I had one rejection episode, but as it turned out, it wasn't a rejection. But they did give me some drugs to counteract that. You get to have intimate knowledge of your own bloods for the simple reason they're telling you what you've got to do to maintain your blood levels. I was very fortunate, very lucky, Rick.
Did you have someone to look after you when you came home from hospital?
I was only young, I was only 27, sorry, I was still living at home. I'd actually been dialysing at home, my mother was helping me, so yes I did. I had my parents and a supportive family as well. Totally autonomous these days. I mean, I have a wife and a child. We're empty nesters now. He left about 2 months ago, which is certainly unusual.
If you had to give some advice to a potential kidney recipient, what would you say?
I'd say go for it. The best thing that I've ever done. And all cases aren't the same. I mean, I've seen a lot of people that do have a lot of problems. I'm just extremely fortunate to be one that has very limited problems and have left it and have been able to lead a very healthy lifestyle since then. So very, very fortunate. For kidney patients in general, if you do what the doctors and the nurses tell you to, you don't have any problem. With the transplant, you do have to be constantly taking immunosuppressant drugs, and that's something you don't stop.
And you've been going 26 years and you're still going strong?
Yes, most definitely.
With the same kidney?
With the same kidney.
Mm.